Buongiorno e benvenuto alla Dalla Terra Masterclass. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Alberto Tasca, who's out here from the island of Sicily, right off the southern coast of Italy. Alberto, ci sei?
Ciao Brian, I'm here.
Ciao, eccolo, ti vedo benissimo. Benvenuto, welcome, and thanks for taking some time this afternoon for you to spend with us and share a little bit of some of the projects you're working on today.
Yeah.
What I thought I would do, Alberto, we have some people joining us today that may not be super familiar with Dalla Terra, so I'm just going to do a quick intro, and then we'll roll directly into your family, into the Tasca family and Tascante, and the incredible wines of Etna we'll be focusing on today. By way of a brief introduction, my name is Brian Larkey. I founded Dalla Terra 30 years ago in 1990. Worked at UC Davis, went over to Italy, worked over there for almost 5 years at Ca' del Bosco in Franciacorta, making sparkling and still wines. Fell in love with Italy, came back from Italy in 1990, and found a way, kind of created a way that I can still continue to work with Italian wines here in the US. And it's been a real treat and a pleasure to be able to pull together a portfolio of leading producers. We've got about 30 different brands and about 20 different families. For example, Alberto Tasca's family, we work with 3 of their wineries in Sicily, and they're listed right there on the map. So anyway, we've got 20 families, 30 brands, and we've got a team of about 20 dedicated Dalla Terra folks that work. We call them Dalla Terristas, and they work with us across the United States, from Maine to Southern California, and from Seattle over to Miami. We crisscross the country. Dalla Terra means of the earth, Dalla Terra. And I just fell in love with Italy when I was there and realized that Italy has about 600 varietals, and our offices in Napa Valley, what have we got up there? 10, we're lucky. Italy's just diverse. It's fascinating. It's got more stories and more people than any other wine growing region that I could find. And it's been basically my home and my home away from home since 1990 for the last 30 years. So it's a real treat and a pleasure to do that. And our model, called Winery Direct, is the way that we bring wines to the United States, whereby we skip the national importer. So the wines are sold directly from the estate, directly to the distributor in most every state where it's legal to do so. And as you can see from the numbers above, it's better margins for the producers themselves. If you want to support as much as possible, they continue to reinvest in their land and their people. And for the consumer on this side, it's a fantastic value. Basta. Enough about us. Let's dive into Alberto. Let's dive into Sicily. Let's dive into Etna. Today we'll be focusing on Mount Etna. You can see from this map, this is a great map that gives you an idea of, first of all, where the island of Sicily is, down in the very southern part of Italy, just north of Africa, of Tunisia, and the mountain. It's a very volcanic area, and Alberto's going to get into that. But a brief intro: it's in the northeast part of the island, and for what most people don't realize is that Mount Etna. It's an active volcano, one of the most active volcanoes in the world today. And B, it's about 11,000 feet. So you've got a snow-capped mountain that's kind of equidistant there between North Africa and Greece on one side, and kind of Rome up to the north. It kind of makes this beautiful, beautiful triangle with this amazing 11,000 foot mountain built right into it. Okay, Alberto Tasca, benvenuto. Maybe we should start with a little bit of history, perhaps of you and your family in general. Because when I think of Sicily, I think of the Tasca family. You work with 5 estates total. And I think you guys are some of the best ambassadors for Sicily, Sicilian culture, from the cooking school to the vineyards to places to stay. Un po' di storia, per favore.
Hi, hello, thank you, Brian, and hello to everybody. So yes, my name is Alberto Tasca, coming from the Tasca family. Tasca family works for 8 generations. We started in 1830 in Regaliali. The Regaliali estate is our major estate that is based in right in the center of Sicily, in the heart of Sicily. And so what about Sicily? We just work in Sicily. We own 5 estates all around the island. Each estate has its own particular attitude and reason why, and that's really important. And I think that's what we try to show and let people understand is more about what Sicily is. So never imagine about Sicily like a flat island. Sicily has like 64% of presence of hills, and is the major hills wine production in Italy, and second of mountain wine production in Italy after Trentino Alto Adige. So imagine an island that is full of diversity. You have, of course, the sea level, and but really few plant, and most of the soils are really different, with volcanic soil and clay soil, calcareous soil. So each part of it is really, really diverse, with diverse microclimate. And that's make the difference of complexity. Instead of that, we have also around 50 different native varieties. And if you combine this amount of varieties with this diversity of place, you can think so much things there is in Sicily to do. We are trying to focus on the best place in Sicily where we find this kind of attitude of a combination between varieties and terroir in the best way as we can do. Briefly, that's all.
That's not so brief, but that's a lot. It's a lot of projects, and I really should be forthcoming and let everybody listening know what's not really a secret, and that is that a few months ago, at the beginning of this year, your estate, your group of estates in Tasca da Marita itself, were named European Winery of the Year by the Wine Enthusiast. And I think that the diversity that Sicily offers has been really well captured by what you and your family have been working on for literally for generations, and recognized this year as Winery of the Year. I mean, it was a real treat to be out there in San Francisco with you and your team and celebrate that. So congratulations on that. And I think it really sets the stage for what we're talking about today, because I think it's not just about what have you done yesterday, but what are your current projects. And the one that we're focusing on now in this master class is going to be Etna, and it's going to be this this phenomenon really that's taken, I think, the imagination of Italy by storm, and something that your family embarked on 13 years ago. I mean, now it's kind of a hot thing, but almost a decade and a half ago, both were like, really? What were some of the things that first struck you? And I think it was probably a golfing outing from your brother Giuseppe that kind of brought him out to that part of the island. And imagine a place that's almost as mountainous as Alto Adige, and trying to find a flat place in a volcano, in a lava field to go golfing. But it's extraordinary. So what was the first, some of the first inclinations, I think, by your family to have you recognize and fall in love with this area? Because this, by the way, is a work of love. This is nothing you do for financial remuneration. This is when you're planting vineyards and working in volcanic lava fields underneath an active volcano, you got to really be an optimist, huh?
Yes. So that's funny. Yes, it starts. So we start to explore Sicily and going around Sicily and try to find the right estate and place and attitude in 2001. And we were in Etna. We bought in the first estate in Etna in 2007. That period, my brother Giuseppe was a golf player. When people start to play golf, they want to only play golf, so they don't think about anything else. And there is a beautiful golf course in the Etna. It's one of the best 100 ranking in the world, just because the scenarios is crazy. So you find this green grass inside the black stone of the volcano, and it's so deep and going with lake, river. Is some crazy place. And one day, so when my brother went back at home, and he told me, You know, Alberto, I think a nice place where to invest could be Etna. And I was sure that it was for the reason why that he was just playing golf. I mean, I know him and I say, okay, you are, this Giuseppe, come on, we cannot buy an estate just because you want to play golf there. No, you, really? Okay, I say, okay, bring me there, I mean, or let me test some good wines from there. And I honestly speaking, when I was there, I started to taste all the wine from Etna, and few of them impressed me a lot. And impressed me a lot because they were really distinctive. There was something different between, if you know, Sicily. So the first time you approach Etna wines, you will never think that you are in the southern part of Italy on a warm part of the world, because of the elegance of the wines, because of the color. The color is not so deep. Then we will see, and I will talk to you about all these details of wines. But once I get there, I discover a word that I never, seen before in Sicily, and that was crazy for me because I grew up here and I never been in this kind of vineyard. So Etna has a huge history of wine production in the beginnings of the 18th century and even in the 17th century. Then it dropped on the end of the 19th century because there was a tax that was get penalty to hold the bush wine that was produced there. And so if you arrive in Etna, you will find a lot of small different estates, and they are all closed by wall made by dry stone, close to putting one to each other. So it was a scenario that was crazy because you see these green vineyards inside of the black wall, made all by artisan, stone by stone, and each estate has its own palmento. Palmento is the winery. It's how they used to produce wine in each estate, and then they used to sell. This is a palmento that you can see now in the moment. So they used to produce wine there, and then they used to sell wine from a small harbor that is close to Catania. Catania is the biggest city close to Etna, and in the east part of Sicily. And it was called Riposto. And that harbor was built just for let the wine ship to the continent. And the wine from Etna was called wine of Riposto. Then in the same week, and that was totally fascinating me, but because it's in terms of viticulture, so not only the wine, but the contest and the viticulture there was so different, so crazy. So I was really, really, really attracted by that. Then we continued to start to explore, and we went some piece of vineyard in the southern part, because the original part, side of the Etna volcano, when the viticulture started, was in the southern part. So I went there, and for 2-3 summer had highs on the vineyard, so I break everything, all the vines was destroyed. So I start to explore after 3 years the north side, where we found they stayed where we are now, but it was so crazy. So now here you can see how it's made. If you can go back to the slide before, you can see that there is all this terrace, it's all made by hands, and it's crazy. It's like a Maya site where you can see this hard work by man, and how the vineyards are going down to the volcano. If you can see, all the terraces are connected by stairs, so you can walk, and they're all drying without anything. So there are artisans that work the stone in this kind of way, and that is amazing. Then the other things of Etna that I think is really crazy, is fascinating when you start to study it, is how it works. So Etna is made by 132 contrade. Contrade, if you see on the right of this slide, you see different red color. All these colors are eruptions, and the eruption arrive, after you don't know when, and can be like 1,000 of years of difference. And each eruptions change the territory, so how the territory is made, and change the road. The road changed because the eruption destroyed them. And these 132 contrades are made because of the eruptions. The other magic things that happen in Etna, that each eruption comes from a different pyroclastic explosions. So the mixture and the alchemy that is inside the explosion is different. So you have many variables in the soil, different kind of eruption, different age of eruptions, and different exposition. And all these kind of variable impact to the wine in a different way. And that's what I think is make it magic.
Alberto, you're bringing out some new words that most people aren't familiar with. They might have heard the word alluvial soil, or maybe sedimentary rock, or maybe schist. But you're bringing out stuff that's called pyroclastic explosions. It gives you an idea. And the other thing is that a lot of people hear the word terroir. They think about an individual cru, a particular vineyard site. And while all that's true, proximity to the ocean in this case, elevation on this 11,000 foot peak, are you a southern exposure? Are you up in the northern part of the volcano face there? All that still exists. But in addition, and what's woven into the idea of a contrada is this idea of lava flows. So I could be sitting here on my little contrada. I can look across the way over there at your contrada, and our soil ages could be 5,000 years apart. I mean, I could sit here and look at you a quarter mile away because the lava flowed over there 300 years ago, and your soil's only a few hundred years old. We were driving on a road together, and the road ended in a lava flow. And that's just, like I said, you really have to be an optimist to be able to build and continue to grow down there. And don't think that the lava just is on the top of the peak and that it just flows in one particular area. It doesn't. You can see by that map just how dominating it is, and literally praying to the volcano gods on a regular basis. But going back to contrada, because that's really what we're going to focus on today, it's not just exposure, it's not just terroir, it's literally the age of the soil. And they know exactly when many of these individual lava flows occurred. And in this slide on the left side, you can see the four titles there for some of the various individual pieces that the Tasca family owns. But think about this in terms of soil age and how long it takes for soil to break down and create soil. And another thing that Alberto said, which is key, is this artisan idea of building these walls. And if you go to places like Ireland, you see them over centuries picking up the rocks out of the land and building walls with it. Well, it separates things, it creates a wind block, but it also makes the soil tillable and fertile and arable. And that's something that they've been working on here in Sicily for a long time. And it's really one of the key things. It's not oftentimes, Alberto, at least in this country, we see large expanses of vineyard. We think of someone like Kendall Jackson that has thousands and thousands and thousands of hectares of vineyard under operation. And it's very different to run a tractor down a row for acres and acres versus literally hand building these vineyards. And those incredible Mayan walls that we just saw photographs of, to be there it's an extraordinary undertaking to understand that this is all built by hand, by man. So you're really not, I think the other thing that I realized when I was spending time with you there is that of all the things you can't fight, a volcano is probably one of them. And you need to learn to live in deference with great respect for what it can do. And obviously in the wines that we're tasting from you, we get the best of all worlds. You get snow on the top and these incredible vineyards down below. And another thing that you mentioned is that they're on the north-facing slope. And look at this. It's an extraordinary place. But I would also venture to say now that I think that the wines from Tascante on the north slope of Mount Etna are probably some of the most elegant wines. It's probably one of the things that drew you to them in the beginning, right? Was the elegance and not this. They're so different from many of the other, Negro Amato and things that you're going to find in Sicily that for a long time were bulk wines. People would show up in ships, load up Negro Amato and ship it out of the island because it was big and bold and had heat and high alcohol. And here you're dealing at elevation with cooler wines and much more elegance.
This is something of something about this that is really me, because I really love elegant wines instead of just powerful wines. And in Sicily, we had plenty really powerful, but like all the southern part of the world, really powerful wines without, just too much with too much juicy and not to the right balance. And I get mad about elegant wine, and that's why probably Etna attract me a lot, because it's like a really different universe. The other things that is really nice to consider when you think about Etna, as you say, is like 11,000 feet from the up to the level sea. And before that, so millions of years ago, it was a submarine volcano. So it's built step by step. So things about this kind of phenomenon, and step by step the soil start to build. And most of his soil is not just is made in that come from the rain. I mean, because it's just thrown down out and then softly come down and go to become a terrace or a soil.
So Alberto, speaking about step by step, and everything has to begin somewhere. And Sicily began on the ocean floor, but you guys had to begin somewhere in terms of your vision for Tascante, your vision of what types of wines you wanted to make. And when you and I were together, I guess it was in the fall, just 6 months ago or so, we were able to finally introduce these contradas from three different areas, from Pianodario, Rampante, and Sciaranuova. And tell us about your ideas, your thinking as you began to work there and you realized that you could actually create something that had that distinctive personality as you move from contrada to contrada, and what you're trying to, what you are achieving here. And again, we just introduced this 6 months ago. So this is a brand new project as you're being able to differentiate these wines.
So that's probably why wine is crazy. So we spent like 8 years to make the project without before we get to this and to these contrada wines. And before that was just to understand the differences by contrada. Of course, when you taste them, so what we have done is before building the cellar there, we used to bring the grape and to Regaliana, another state, another cellar to just make the first experimentation. Then we understand a little bit more what was needed for the Nerello Mascalese and Caricante both. And then we start to build the winery in Etna. Few things that were really important and changed when we start to buy to vinify the vines there. First of all, inside the same vineyards, you have even 150 meters of differences. So the ripeness of the grape change between the bottom to the top side of the vineyard. The other side, the other things that we learn is that the ripeness of the vineyards close to the wall is different than the one that is in middle, that is different than the one that is in the board of the terrace. And so that was really important, that if you want to achieve the perfect point of maturation, of ripeness of the grape, you have to do 3 to 4 harvests inside the same vineyards. The other things was just to try to vinify everything separate. And then after that, that was the real revolution. So we start to think, I mean, if you taste all the contrada, you understand that you are in the same place with the same varieties. But there are some details that change the wine totally, and that's make it magic. So go through our 3 contrada yet, the fourth will come in the next 2 years. They are approached in terms of ripeness of change. They change like in a month, so they have a month of difference between when they get the right point of ripeness. And Contrada Rampante is where we have the cellar, is a contrada with big terrace, and the wine there from there are really much with rich of flower, of perfume, and they are really not easy to drink, but immediately arrive to you and show the flower of the Nerello Mascalese and the smell of Nerello Mascalese and the varieties in a really good approach. If you go then to Sciaranuova, you find a much more complexity. So the wine are the same kind of flavors, but more deep. The body is similar, but a little bit more deep, even the body. And even the taste have the same kind of difference. So the stay in your palate for a little bit more and more. And it's really very well balanced. And then if you jump to Pianodario, that is in another contrada, with these 150 different terras, the color became a little bit more darker, and even the flower is a little bit more with more austerity. So it doesn't show immediately what it is. But I'm talking about, just don't imagine three different wines. It's the same wine with these kind of details that are different. And so I think this is the magic of wine. So what I love in wine in general is the geography of wine. So to me, wine is magic. When I used to drink wine in a blind tasting. And when I do a blind tasting, I want to know, I get mad by the wine that show me and tell me who they are, where they come from, how old are they, what kind of variety. So if the wine is, can show you this, I think they get the point. Then some in these wines, you will find always something that is really special and will emotional on you. And that's what happened in Etna. So you can find this wine, but these details make it different, and it's crazy. And the interaction between harvest and harvest, so between a vintages, and depending on the climate change, totally between a contrada and another one. And we are really 100 meters close to the other vineyard. That's crazy.
It's incredible in terms of the diversity in which you're able to capture in these wines. Just for clarity for folks who are listening, you mentioned two different grapes. Barolo Mascalese, which is the primary. There's also Barolo Cappuccio, but Barolo Mascalese is the grape that you focus on for the red wines, and Caricante is the white, and your Bonora is the Caricante one that you produce on Etna. Both white and reds are produced up there, and the focus, however, with this conversation is going to be on the Barolo Mascalese, and the variations in this particular theme. It's just to draw a comparison, might be the wines that, since this is a newer region and folks are just beginning to discover it, and we're just now in the United States releasing the three different contradas with these different styles and expressions, really, that you described. Another way of thinking about that, to put it in context, might be maybe Nebbiolo. In terms of a lot of very similar comparisons, and probably more people are familiar with the ones from Barolo and Barbaresco as they're just beginning to develop to discover Sicily. But in terms of complexity, in terms of longevity, overall color of the wines and balance of the wines, there are a lot of things to be drawn there. And then as you continue from Barbaresco and Barolo, Alberto, and you go all the way up to the ones of Chiavenasca and Valtellina, then you're really talking again about Mountain Nebbiolo and these higher elevation and wines that have great acidity to them as well. And I do see a lot of similarities between those wines and the wines of Etna, particularly where you've decided to focus, which is the northern part of the volcano. And it's interesting because people are always thinking, oh, Sicily, and you're right off of the Mediterranean Sea, and you can kind of go up there and look out and you can see North Africa from there. It's got to be a crazy hot area. And the exact opposite is true. It's some of the highest vineyards in Europe are planted there. As I said, it's an 11,000 foot peak with snow cap on the top. And interestingly enough, it's also some of the vineyards that are harvested later. You might be thinking, oh, with weather changes, I hear that people are beginning to harvest in August. Mid-August, late August. When is a typical harvest for you guys on the north slope of Etna? When do you guys pick?
So like 2016, the contrada that you tasted was the last grape arriving in the cellar the 8th of November. So imagine in Sicily, we have like 3 months of harvest. That is quite long. And even stressful. We start from August and we arrive to November. And about the Nerello Mascalese, I have to tell you something that is really what make the difference and convince us even to focus on it, because we already used the Nerello Mascalese in another estate in the center of Sicily that is Regaliali, and it was a really old tradition to produce Nerello Mascalese, but just for rosé wine. Then I start to vinify Nerello Mascalese even to have a red wine. But it's a varieties that if it's not really in the right combination with the right soil in the right place, doesn't give you so interesting. It's like when you taste a Pinot Noir or Pinot Nero that doesn't come from a particular area, it became like monotone, it's flat, just a lot of perfume, but it's nothing interesting. What is the combination between Nerello Pascalese and Etna and the volcanic soil of Etna is the tensions. So there are wine that are really elegant, but really with a lot of tension. So there's a lot of energy in the wine that you can feel. And that's make it the difference. I mean, it's something that is really unique. And I totally agree. I think we learn, I mean, with Etna wines, we learn a lot from Barbaresco and Barolo, even from part of Burgundy, where even their Pinot Noir interact in different way between a place to another one. That's I think that makes the place of wines that really really adapt to produce high level of quality.
Yeah, well, we're not. I think it helps people dial things in a little bit in their head and understand what the expectations are when we compare it with something that they're already familiar with, whether it's Pinot Noir or Nebbiolo. It kind of gives people a little bit of context to think about things with. And I use the word elegant, which I think is really a great, as opposed to power, as opposed to intense tannins. And yet at the same time, because of the acid structure of these wines, and also the fact that they have so much hang time. You know, you're picking some of these wines in November, in early November. These wines have an amount of extract, an amount of concentration, and an amount of complexity that doesn't come from a short hang time. It really comes from, you know, that extra month and a half on the vine that you're able to get, which gives these wines an incredible longevity, and I think has driven these wines into the imagination of many. It's kind of like there were a few good examples out there. You being one of the earlier of the new wave 13 years ago, and in the last 5 years, last 10 years, last 5 years, the demand, the interest, the drive, not just from the drinking world, from consumers, from sommeliers to be able to present these, but it's almost like a gold rush. It's almost like a land drive to go ahead, because with lava flows spread all over, you can't just plant everywhere. And you can't even find arable land. So the rush has been on for some time in and around Etna to get a piece of that, and people have come down from the north and from outside of Italy, and you as a true Sicilian, as the one that really carries the banner for all of Sicily. In a sense, it's like, you know, sta lontano, and then the other side, it's like it's a wonderful recognition of what Sicily has to offer. That there's so much interest, both nationally and internationally. I know here in the United States, when we first began to introduce these wines on a national basis, the interest has been extraordinary. The intrigue has been fantastic. And it's driven by, at least in this country, initially by many of the sommeliers and the key retailers that are really trying to find these amazing niches that are just beginning to emerge right now. And it's been a real treat to see that as these things have developed. So for you, is there a sense of jealousy, or is there more a sense of the more the merrier, and we need lots of ambassadors to kind of go forth and share what Etna has to offer?
No, of course there is no jealousy. I'm really happy about that, because it was a really hard work to make it. So Sicily was really famous for bulk wine production, and it was a huge bulk wine sales production that was really easy. So the bulk wine was really easy to sell. So the previous generation never invest to valorize the place, and that was I mean, I get mad from that when I start to work in wine. And today, I think with all the new generation and things, everything changed. We started to work all together to valorize Sicily. Imagine that Sicily today is the most important region for biologic production. So in terms of sustainability, it's really strong. And we don't have to treat the VM vines. I mean, compared to other places around the world. We use zero copper and salt, and because nature here is really generously, really often. And the other things is that this difference of the area, and imagine even that a small area like Etna is just 2,300 acres, so it's just 950 hectares of vineyard. That is a really small vineyards. We are plenty, I mean, like more than 70 producer all there. And you cannot imagine what happened on the night when we meet on the wine bar and we start to drink wine and fight about wine. So this is energy. This is energy that make the territory things. We share, we fight. Is everybody of us has his own approach to the wine, to agriculture, and that's energy that I love. I think this is the best part of my job.
You mentioned something just a second ago that we need to talk more about. You talked a little bit about the sustainability of what you're working with, and not just sustainability, but you're actually one of the driving forces of sustain. Can you tell us about what that is and how that ties in, not just with the vineyards, but also with everything that your organization does and the impact that it has on the environment?
Yeah, of course. During my when I was a little bit younger, I'm talking about like 15 years ago, I was really attracted about, of course, all the health part of the industry, and so I approached like the organic and then biodynamic and then natural wines come to me and things. So, and I had to decide what do you want to do, Alberto? Which is the way that you will follow? And this is start probably with who am I? I mean, I'm a little bit unsure. So what I was missing was something that gave to me the right direction. And the right direction was given by even number, information, real information, not only philosophy, not only what was inside me. So we started this approach 12 years ago with involving the Minister of the Environment, and we start a protocol that is called Sustain. It's made by the two Minister of Environment and Agriculture in Italy. And this all including everything. So you can use, of course, biodynamic agriculture or conventional organic, but you have to measure it, and you have some benchmark, and the benchmark is the organic. So you can use whatever you want in the vineyard instead, but the impact has to be lower than organic. And that's something that is really attracting me in terms of method, because I don't like the method that are static. So I think the nature is dynamic, and I think we have a lot of research that we can make to improve our approach to agriculture. Still, we have just one harvest per year, so we cannot experiment a lot, and then we have to do a lot. So we planted vineyards, and we grow vineyards in organic and a biodynamic and sustainable way with different methods, and we bring from each of these kind of way to grow on best practice, try to bring the best of everything. And how can we know that? Just measuring our impact. There are a lot of techniques how you can measure your impact to the soil, to the environment, to the people, to even to the consumer. And that's put me in a comfortable zone, because now I'm more sure when I have to take a decision, I know which direction I can improve. The other things that attract me a lot, sustainability, is the approach that is a little bit Japanese, coming from the Kaizen method. So you have to improve always. So never be in a comfort zone in terms of never relax and try to put your target even better and better and better. And this gives energy and bring energy inside the company. Today, after 10 years, we had the certification 3 years ago, and we started this kind of work on protocol 10 years ago. Now it's part of the culture of all the people that work with me, and that's beautiful. You always learn, and then even we combine with other people that join the protocol, like friends and producers. The best way is when our agricultural manager meet all together and they start to share problem, and we have to find all together to try to find a solution to improve. So this kind of method is part of our company. It's the reason why we were like nominated with the best winery in Europe from Wine Enthusiasts. I think the best thing was not just the award, but the reason why they gave us this nomination, because they find that we influence a lot in terms of sustainability projects, the entire system of Italy and Europe. So I'm a really fan of it.
No, it's that philosophy, and I think that the philosophy, the kind of the Zen idea that you mentioned, which is constant improvement, constant reiteration, and in connecting that with the dynamism of nature, the dynamism of what's happening in anyone's particular region is extraordinary. And it's not just the vision, but it's the leadership that you're providing for at least at this point for your Sicilian neighbors and colleagues, and many of the leading friendly estate friends of yours that you work with are participating in this. And it doesn't just look at organic or biodynamic farming. I think it even looks at if you're using electric vehicles in the organization versus, it depends on the efficiency of everything that goes into that. Maybe not as extreme as biodynamics and looking at the farm as an organism, but it does look at the company and everything that the company contributes to along the way, which is in a way it makes the most sense to us when we talk about it and think about it, because an organization is not just that one little piece of the farming aspect.
Imagine, sorry, Brian, but imagine that even Capofaro, that is another estate where we have a small hotel, it's part of Relais Chateau. This year has the same award because it was the most sustainable hotels in terms of we take care about sustainability. We draw and we had we didn't have any mono-use plastic, and that was a really big target to do that. And so I think that's what you are saying is part of the culture of the company and make me in a really good position in terms of decision process.
Outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. Are there other things that you wanted to share about the various contradas, either in terms of maybe production numbers, because they're relatively small, with only 2,300 acres in all of Etna. These are very, very small parcels. They are available in the United States. We began bringing them in after our New York introduction, but essentially this year. They are, I think, some of the most, even though they're the very first step, un passo alla volta, the very first release, first step, but it gives us a wonderful idea of what is to come. And as you said, the vision working on this for 13 years overall, but for 8 years trying to differentiate and acquire, even just acquiring the land to be able to produce this. But my experience there is twofold. One, you've just got this relatively new winery that's been set up right there, which is modern, state of the art, in which you can basically, as we like to say in the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. You can do the very best you can with the fruit. Another thing that struck me is it's really not about the winery as it is about the fruit and really being able to express that in the best way. But only now with the new winery right there are you able to have DOC status. In other words, say that these wines are made right there at Etna where the estate is. If you wanted to share anything on those topics before we move on here.
If you want to share, sorry, Brian, I didn't hear what you asked.
Oh, if you wanted to share anything about the new Palmetto, if you wanted to share anything about the winemaking itself for the contradas.
So for the contrada, to achieve the contrada and the difference, of course, in terms of winemaking, the only things that is really important is to be really precise and to don't have variable between one contrada to the other one. So we do all still in the same way, same approach, just to valorize the food that come out there. And this is so fascinating. So we are in terms of wood, that is one of the variables that we are there in Etna. We are using big barrels of Slavonian oak, and then small barriques. And the barriques we are working with just one tonnellerie that is site in the middle of it's a really small tonnellarie of Burgundy. It's called Chassagne, and we are working hard to find the right wood for the wines. We don't want to use a lot of new wood because it doesn't impact too much, and the Nerello Mascalese is rich of tannins, so doesn't need a lot of wood at all. And in terms of flowers, really delicate, so we have to find them. And this man of the tonnellerie, Mr. Chassagne, was a buyer for a big tonnellerie that is called Seguin Moreau. So he knows woods from all the forest very, very well. It's really passionate. The only problem is that we fight. You want to smell, you want to feel more wood in the wines. I want to feel less. And so we fight, but the direction is quite nice. No, I think that as usual, I mean, I think I hope that this situation of COVID-19 will end as soon as possible, and to host you and all of you to come and visit us. I think Sicily needs to be visited, to be understand more.
Before we're able to get over there, we should be able to grab some bottles, taste some things. Can you give us a few words on Ghiaia Nera, what that is, where it fits into the portfolio in terms of price point availability? It's obviously for us kind of a gateway drug. It's a good way for us to get it. I would kind of compare it to maybe Rossi Montalcino for Brunello or something along those lines. Tell us about Ghiaia Nera and what that means.
So Ghiaia Nera means the black stone that you use for making the road, and the black stone that come from lava. They used to work and you can find this small black stone all around the area of Etna. So Ghiaia means the stones, and Nera is black. And so this project, so is the only one wine that we don't produce from a single vineyard. And it's exactly a wine that we keep from different vineyards all around Etna. So some of them are experimental vineyards because we are studying them. Some of them are really young. Some of them are really from small producer that goes to us, and then we try to understand that. The mission of Ghiaia Nera is to be a really good wine, not a single vineyard, but to give you a precise vision of the vintages. And you find in the market 1 year before the contrada, and give you exactly a direction of what the contrada will be in terms of vintages. Each vintages in Etna are really different. So that's another thing of Etna that really surprised me. There is not consistency in terms of the same harvest, same microclimate between harvest and harvest. We had just not a lot of experience there, just 10 years of experience. But I saw each vintages were really different and impact a lot of difference in the wine. And this is something that is really important too. And so in Ghiaia Nera give always the right perception of what will be the contrada.
Fantastic. So encourage everyone to go out and take a look for those wines. They're affordable, they're available, and they're a great introduction into Nerello Mascalese as a whole, and Tascante in particular. You mentioned that when all this stuff allows us, it'd be good to go out and do a little visit. I'd love to go out and do a little visit. I'm sure a lot of people have been asking me in the past few months, where should we go when things open back up? For me, it's Sicily. For me, Sicily has it all. It really, really does. And it's got my personal love affair going on with that island, and the people and the spirit and the stories that happen there. I look at wine a lot based on the foods that pair with it. And I have to say that I think Sicily has, without doubt, some of the greatest food in all of Italy. And when you look at the things that the Nerello Mascalese are going to pair with, you just do a little 360 around Mount Etna, and you can find things. But taking a look at this map here, you guys work with 5 different wineries in Sicily. That's why I said you're probably one of the best ambassadors for Sicily as a whole. And we at Dalla Terra, we work with 3 of the wineries. We work obviously with Tascante, which is the Tasca family and Mount Etna, spelled backwards, spelled Tascante. And then on the far western slopes, out there on a little tiny island called Mozia, we work with the Whitaker Foundation's. Look at that. It's a tiny little island in a lagoon that is planted only to the Grillo grapes. And then in the very north part of Sicily, on the island of Salina, there we go, is the Relais Chateau that Alberto was just speaking about, which was just named the most sustainable in the Relais Chateau group this past year. It is an extraordinary place. So when you're at Mount Etna, that's not Etna in the distance. What is that? Cos'è? Stromboli? Che ne so io.
No, that's Panarea. Stromboli is yeah,
off the other side. So it's an amazing area. You've got literally Vulcan. You've got all these incredible islands that are popping up out of the blue Mediterranean, and right in the middle of that is our vineyards with Malvasia and this Relais Chateau. Can you tell us a little about that? And when things finally open up, it is going to be an extraordinary destination for people that want that extra taste of what Sicily has to offer.
So as I told you before, we were looking for a special place with special attitude, and Capofaro was the first place where I was after when I started to explore other sites in Sicily. It's a vineyard with a north exposition in front of you. Behind Panarea that you don't see now, you have Stromboli, that is another active volcano. So from Capofaro, every night you can see the red light of the eruption of Stromboli. That is crazy, because bring you an atmosphere that is crazy. It's like being in front of a fireplace, but I mean, it's something that is more and more powerful and strong. And there is a lighthouse, as you can see on the right. And it was a dream of all the kids to sleep or to be the guardian of a lighthouse, or almost was my dream when I was really young. And now is the lighthouse that is the guardian of all the vineyards. So it's really a sweet place. Another place that has a really incredible history about the Malvasia production in the past. We produce two kinds of Malvasia. The one is sweet wine, and another one is dry wine. This year we will start with another project in another highland close to us with the same Malvasia. It's like different contrada you have, and the Holy Highlands you have different highlands. So we are starting to explore the different highlands and the different attitude of the highlands with the same grape varieties. And the first wine will be from Vulcano. We found 4.5 hectares there that are amazing. And the picture that you made so before that from Mozia is another site that is really full of history. Was the most important Phoenician site in the Mediterranean Sea. Is where people and Phoenician invent the purple color, breaking the shells. And they used to produce a lot of, they were like 1,200 people that were used to live in the island. If you can see after in the backside, so here is, we are close to Trapani and Marsala. There is a huge salt production over there. So the water is not so deep. And the site was completely not ravaged by the pirates, because all the pirates that used to want to go there and to take all their jewelry or patrimony, they were crashed with they crashed with the boats. So it's totally intact. We worked with the Assessorato della Cultura, because when you go there in the vineyards, you find like piece of small amphora, so they have to tell you if you can continue to work or not. It's another crazy place. So Sicily is right in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. We had a really huge history in terms of different population that arrived there. Population that spent like 100 years or even a little bit more in Sicily, leave their influences. Like even just because why we have a lot of varieties of grape, because people from all around the world used to produce and bring their own vines in Sicily, and then the vines adapt themselves to the territory. And if you go from east to west in Sicily, you will find a totally different island in terms of anthropological way, cultural people, architectural way, the microclimate that change, and popular arts and culture, different song, different dialects. So this is Sicily. Sicily is a mess of everything, but there's really huge complexity on terms of diversity, and that's make it complex, but at the same time really easy to approach.
That's it. That's it. It's all about the complexity, and there are very few places that I would love to go spend time than in Sicily. The food, the people, and while it's a land that's goes back, as you just mentioned, to the Phoenicians, and has been it's had great Greek influence and great Muslim influence, and great Spanish influence, and the Reino de Sicilia, and all this history. And as you said, everyone leaves every civilization, every language, every culture has left their mark on Sicily, and it's a place that really shouldn't be missed. It's a place that I think everyone needs to put on their calendar. Let me just add that working with you and working with Giuseppe and your family has really been one of the joys for me personally, and for all of us at Dalla Terra, to work with a family that's that dedicated. It's not about you, it's about us. It's not about Regaliale and the Tasca family. It's really about Sicily. It's about being ambassadors to a region, to an area, and promoting everyone, because as everyone rises up and has an opportunity to go out and share what's happening, everybody wins. And being the custodians essentially for 5 different properties on 3 different islands so far. Well, 4 if we count Volcano. You're really an island people. So it's been a treat collaborating with you guys, and I really look forward to what tomorrow brings. And I want to thank you for everything. Are there other things that you wanted to add?
No, just really need to see you again back. I want to stop the quarantine and go back to flight everywhere and all around the world, and enjoy and be with people and drinking wine, eating good food, listening good music, and enjoy the social part. I love to smart working. Even this kind of experiment is really nice, but I love to touch people. So I don't know when we can be back to that. And then,
amen. Well, as we say, from your lips to God's ears, let's hope that all that happens in due time. And it's been a real treat chatting with you. And I just wanted to let people know what else is coming up. Today's Tuesday. On Thursday, the 28th of May, I'll be chatting with Sabatino di Properzio from La Valentina, and we'll take a look at what's happening in his vineyards and what's happening in the beautiful area of Abruzzo. I want to thank everybody that's taken time to listen and learn with us today, and especially to our team at Dalla Terra that makes all this happen. It makes everything happen and tick across the United States. This actual conversation will be put up on our YouTube channel, so we can go back and catch up with that and listen to that in the future. È stato un grande piacere, and be smart, you guys out there. Be kind, think locally, and always drink globally. Grazie.
Grazie, ciao a tutti. Grazie.
Ciao Alberto. Ciao, saluti.
Ciao.